The Fidelity MSCI Energy Index ETF, the symbol is FENY or FENY, was launched in 2013 and is a passively managed ETF designed to offer broad exposure to the energy segment. Passively managed ETFs have become popular because they can offer low costs, transparency, flexibility, and tax efficiency. Sector ETFs also provide convenience and can provide ways to gain low risk and diversified exposure to a broad group of companies in particular sectors. So, let's take a look. FNY is sponsored by Fidelity and has assets of over $470 million, making it one of the largest ETFs attempting to match the performance of the energy segment. Annual operating expenses for FNY are 0.08%, making it the least expensive product in the space. Equally important is that it has a 12-month trailing dividend yield of 3.25%. ETFs offer diversified exposure because of the multiple holdings. However, it is also important to understand the fund's holdings. As would be expected, FNY has a large allocation in the energy sector, about 99.6% of the portfolio. Individual holdings include ExxonMobil Corp., Chevron Corp., and ConocoPhillips. The top 10 holdings account for about 67.4% of total assets under management, and in total, there are about 135 holdings. So, now let's take a look at our charts. We're going to take a look at two charts, starting out with the XLE, which is a Spider Select Energy Select Sector. For disclosure purposes, I do not hold any shares of the XLE or FENY. And we're starting out with this chart here since FENY only has a few years of history going back to 2013. However, based on that time period, it tracks the Spider Select Energy sector pretty well, so this should serve as a proxy for the most part. And looking at this chart here, the price chart, really the main thing that we need to take a look at is this underlying trend that continues to increase as we move along. So, with that basement set, that foundation set, the energy sector looks to be pretty good. Looking at the MAC here, we can see that regardless of the downtrends, say in 2009 or even here in 2016, the price chart continued on up. Here is the 2016, and then of course here is 2009. So it had those dips, and then it moved onward after those dips. Now, this recent dip here is just gone through the 200 EMA in late 2018, but recently it bounced off of it here in, say, mid-2019. So that double bottom here, I think, is somewhat important, but not crucial. And going back down here to the MACD, we can see that, in my humble opinion, it's beginning to base. It wants to base, and the fast line is going to want to turn up here very soon. You can see the improvement here in the histogram going all the way up. That looks good too. And that improvement is going to show in all of these different oscillators for the most part. Again, price rate of change, same thing. We're near to the zero line, so it's just a little weak, but it wants to turn up, wants to look like it can base here in that area. Relative strength index hit that low there and is improving. Not quite yet to the 50 or midline, but it wants to go there. It seems to be gravitating toward that area. Same thing with the stochastics, a bottoming process in here, in my humble opinion. Volume looks fine, and then the Williams looks like the other oscillators as well. Good improvement. So back up here to the price chart, one more time, that trend line continues to head up. So now let's go take a look at FENY. And now looking at the monthly chart on FENY, and as you can see for the time frame that is available, FENY does track fairly well the Spider Energy Select ETF. So here is the bottom in late 2018, and then the current low at that point there, we bounced off, and then the previous low in 2016. Moving on up here, MACD, as the chart shows, this is relatively shallow. It's just under 0, not quite down to -1, so this is relatively shallow, not very steep. In my humble opinion, such as the SPDR ETF, this wants to head up. Moving on down into the histogram, it shows up there too. Maybe not as well because we need a little bit more time than just a few years. But these indications are going to track the SPDR ETF. So I'm pretty confident that this is showing pretty much what we've already seen in the SPDR ETF. Certainly the stochastics there wants to bottom. The volume here looks fine. And then the Williams looks like it has some upward movement. Back on up to the price chart. In my humble opinion, FNY does want to have a turnaround here, but as usual, conduct your fundamental analysis. And for today, that's Chew Dog Charts.